Mitchell.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker, and it's a pleasure to follow the honourable gentleman whose predecessor was, of course, a friend of many of us on both sides of the House, and also to follow my honourable friend for Harrow, and I want to support what he said about the next set of adjournment debates in the summer being done in recognition or in memory of our great friend Sir David Amess, who, while not my geographical parliamentary neighbour, was my parliamentary neighbour in 1 Parliament Street for the last nearly a decade, actually. Madam Deputy Speaker, I want to raise on the adjournment a matter of great importance to us in the royal town of Sutton Coldfield, which has caused the deepest possible sadness, and I'm very grateful for the opportunity to do so today. It is to raise the case of my young constituent, Louis Watkiss, aged 12, who was so very tragically dying at the Snowdome on the indoor ski slope in Tamworth on the 24th of September this year. Louis's brave parents, Natalie and Chris, are here with us today in the gallery to hear what I'm going to say, and they are bravely working tirelessly to promote the wearing of helmets to ensure that no other families suffer as they today are suffering. On the 24th of September this year, Louis attended a friend's birthday party to go tobogganing. A terrible collision occurred on the slope. The full extent of his injuries were not apparent until Chris, his dad, arrived at the scene. He saw Louis still receiving treatment from the paramedics, and he was pronounced dead shortly afterwards. Both parents had 20 minutes to lie with Louis at the bottom of the indoor ski slope. I'm not going to rehearse the details. The torment of those last moments will live with Louis's parents and other relations for the rest of their lives. The coroner's post-mortem report states that Louis suffered a head injury with fractures involving the base of his skull, which caused him death instantly. Although such deaths from tobogganing and sledging activities are rare in the United Kingdom, research has shown that children are more vulnerable to brain injury and even death from collisions. This is because their skulls are still developing and strengthening and not yet fully protective of the brain within until young people reach the age of 17 or 18. Research referenced in Louis's report from the coroner states that the most prevalent method for reducing traumatic brain injuries is the use of a helmet. They've been shown to reduce the risk of head, neck or face injuries in skiers, particularly those under the age of 13, as well as the severity of the injury. There is clearly a case here, Madam Deputy Speaker, to mandate the use of helmets for snow sports activities in the United Kingdom. To my surprise, while the issue of cycling helmets for minors has been raised in the House, most recently with great eloquence by my honourable friend, the member for Wellingborough, in his private member's bill last year, I believe that this is the first time this particular issue has been raised. Over recent years, some indoor snow sports venues have made it obligatory for participants to wear helmets. However, this is entirely voluntary, and there is currently no guidance or legislation in place for operators. Looking abroad for guidance and relevant examples, we can see in New Jersey in the USA, it has been compulsory for minors under the age of 17 to wear a helmet if participating in such sports since 2011. Similarly, in Europe, the debate around the use of helmets is certainly active, and it is time, at the least, I submit, Madam Deputy Speaker, for a serious discussion here in the United Kingdom. There is little doubt that a helmet would have saved Louis's life. His death is not only tragic, it is wholly avoidable. It is clear that Louis was a remarkable young man, talented, bright, and intellectually curious. He was in his second year at Plants School in my constituency, and amongst many interests and skills, he played the saxophone at grade 5, including a jazz ensemble at Symphony Hall in Birmingham. I believe the House should consider whether or not we now take the significant step of changing the law to insist that in these and similar circumstances, children's heads should be protected by a protective helmet. But if there are issues with either introducing such legislation or bringing forward an amendment to a Home Office measure or other relevant bill to provide for this change, perhaps it may be possible to secure rather more rapidly a code of practice entered into by all indoor snow sport operators and similar activities, which would mean that operators insist on such protective headgear when people are taking part in these activities.
My right honourable friend,
I will indeed give way to my honourable friend.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. This is appalling. Could I ask my right honourable friend whether the Tamworth ski slope now insists on children wearing a helmet when they operate there?
Yes, and my honourable friend raises an important point. My understanding is that they do, which therefore shows the House, and in particular those in my constituency who are now campaigning for this, how quickly such a measure could be introduced. As we gather for Christmas, Madam Deputy Speaker, I am deeply conscious of this tragedy, the suffering of a lovely family and a wider school and music community of Louis' friends and relatives who will be remembering his life and mourning his loss at this terrible time. I know the House and my right honourable friend will want to send Louis' parents, Chris and Natalie, and George and Louis' grandparents, our deepest sympathy. They have every right to expect and believe that this House can be relied upon to look seriously and speedily at a safety measure which the families so bravely and so compellingly want to secure, and which will stop other families from facing the grief and misery that they are suffering at this awful time for them.
Well done.
Margaret Ferrier.